Redditors, what is the please don't do this in your country for tourists? NYC resident here. Do not trust anyone who tries to hand you a CD. It's a scam. Appears to be a Buddhist monk handing you a prayer card. It's a scam. Tries to sell you a Metro card. It's a scam. Is in Times Square and offers you a ticket to a free movie screenings. It's Scientology. That last one is creepy. UK, please don't mess with the Queen's Guard. They may look dumb with their goofy hats, but they are actually armed soldiers. Also, there are more armed soldiers near with assault rifles, so just don't. For NYC tourists, please don't create that sidewalk wall with your family. There may be literally dozens of people trying to get around you if you block up the sidewalk by walking alongside each other. Eventually, you will get pushed. Not to mention they walk at roughly half a mile an hour. In the Scottish Highlands, do not drive extremely slow on a single track and let a trail of cars be stuck behind you. Just pull into a passing place and let everyone past. Also, please don't slam your brakes on to stop in the middle of the road and take pictures. There's plenty of viewpoints you can pull into. And if you say there can only be one to a Scotsman, they will think it more appropriate to cut your head off just cause they are sick of hearing that joke. Oh, and don't approach a random Highland cattle, especially if there is a calf in there. Ask a farmer. Highland cattle are dangerous when you run up to them nilly-willy cause they think you wanna hurt their calves. Buenos Aires. When a local person tells you not to go somewhere, it's because you shouldn't go, especially at night. Places like La Boca are relatively safe during the day. Well, except for that American tourist who got stabbed near his heart and almost died if it weren't for a policeman who shot the robber and is in great trouble for that. But they are pretty dangerous once the sun sets. Do not go to the outskirts of the city unless you know exactly where to go and if you know it's relatively safe. Also, watch out for muggers. A trail in the Appalachians is probably not like trails in your country. There are lots of them everywhere. They all connect, and some go for hundreds of miles. Don't turn down a trail that isn't marked. Don't hike farther than you feel comfortable hiking. Don't go off trail if you don't know where you're going. Follow the touristy trailheads that look well worn. If you get hurt or lost out here and you're far enough from a marked or well-known trail, you are as good as dead. The same absolutely goes for the Rockies. I grew up around them and would still never wander off the paths. People who had wandered them more than me got lost all the time. They're brutal. As a hint, don't do the Nazi greeting in Germany. 1. Because, just don't. 2. Because it is illegal and you can face some huge repercussions for it. There has been an American who did it just a few months ago and went into jail for it. In the right areas you will get kicked in the face if you do that. A few weeks ago someone did a Hitlergruß in Dresden Neustadt and had to go to the hospital afterwards. When the police came, nobody could tell who beat up that guy. Please take enough water to the canyon. You've chosen the longest trail here and completing it is 5.5 miles total. You're also starting at noon, so at nearly 102 degrees down here. You're only a mile in and half your water bottle is gone. I have 3 liters of water and that's almost not enough. There's no shade and you're lucky if we get clouds. We don't want to have to call a helicopter, assuming we can get a signal, and fly your overheated butt out of here. Oh, this one's way too real. I live near Palo Duro Canyon, in TX, and tourists, especially those from other countries, vastly underestimate the heat they'll experience and the water they'll need. The Grand Canyon is so much worse though, because it's so much bigger and more difficult to rescue some people. Beach town in USA. Don't feed the seagulls. They will dive bomb you and everyone around you for food. Then they'll poop on you and everyone around you. And they'll poke your knees. Don't come freedom camping to NZ and then eat at soup kitchens taking resources from homeless people. Or take a dump in the scrub on the side of the road leaving your poo and toilet paper. When visiting Brazil, please don't assume we speak Spanish. We don't. Don't walk down the streets with your phone camera or anything of value on your hand or back pocket. You will get mugged. Don't visit a favela and take smiley pictures like it's a freaking theme park. It's not. People live very tough lives there and it's ridiculous when people from first world countries think it's cute. Also, please be respectful to wild animals. They are everywhere and you have to deal with that. Please don't attempt to feed or touch bears, bison, moose, elk or other wildlife. It's going to end badly for at least one of you. Being Australian, I had no clue just how massive bison and moose are until I watched a few videos and got some decent scale. They're bloody huge and seem to throw their weight around like they know it too. Please don't swim outside the flags and don't swim when lifeguards aren't on duty. The amount of Asian, mostly, tourists who drown at our beaches because they just don't realize how dangerous the surf can be is frustrating. Specific to NYC, be careful where you choose to stop walking. Believe it or not, but many of the touristy areas of Manhattan are also places where people work. Having large groups of people come to a dead stop in the middle of the sidewalk can really mess up people who are on a schedule. This is perhaps most true in places like Grand Central Station. I work in Times Square. The heck I have to wade through every morning just to get to my office door is ridiculous. This is one for tourists coming to America, almost always from sea countries. If you go to shoot guns, do not treat them like toys. Most Euros and South Americans grasp this concept easily, but I have watched Chinese tourists give RO, range officer, a literal aneurysm. Guy collapsed on the spot. I've also seen tourists almost shoot themselves and laugh, like it's a joke they almost freaking killed someone. Yep, not see but similar experience. We took some Croatians out to a buddy's land to plink and shoot skeet. Despite repeated instructions scolding, they had zero trigger discipline and there was some muzzle sweeping. Freaking dangerous. Don't stand in the middle of the dang road taking pictures. There are sidewalks for a reason. Seriously, it's a hick town. Some dumbass will be getting a BJ in a lifted crappy F-150 and run you over because they aren't paying attention. Hello Dallas. Doing inappropriate photoshoots at Holocaust memorabilia, calling people Nazis or generally doing something similar here in Germany. There was some news a while back when some tourists did that. Makes them look like giant idiots. Ugh. I went to the Holocaust Museum in Washington DC and some dude was at the part with the shoes and having pictures taken of him while he was flashing up Aryan gang signs or something like that and laughing. I wanted to deck him. Please don't come to New Zealand and try and holiday for free. Our country struggles to keep up, and we are sick of tourists trying to get around the country begging, stealing or just taking advantage of our social generosity. There is growing animosity around it and it's only a matter of time before someone gets hurt. Yet just read this today: bloody tourists using soup kitchens for a free feed. Cheeky C. Pay to go see our monuments and historical sites. More of a personal request, but bear with me. In the UK, over the last decade or two we've developed a worrying trend of charging entry fees to national heritage sites. These are sites that have been maintained by our tax money and sometimes charities for centuries now. But some bright spark, the brother of someone my mum works with in fact, had the idea that we could make a fortune from tourists by charging an entry fee. These fees are extortionate. £20 to walk around St. Paul's Cathedral, twice as much as you'd pay to watch a movie, and they still try to hold services while tourists visit, insisting they keep quiet. Now this may sound all part and parcel of being a tourist, but it affects us as a nation. It takes our national heritage and charges a premium to us to experience our own history and experience our own culture. The reason they were covered by taxes in the first place is so that we could visit them. Tourists have caused negligible wear and tear over the years, and I don't believe for a second that they're causing enough now. I would rather you get to see it for free and enjoy our history as we do, than greedy profiteering deter low-income families from learning about our culture. Worst of all is that the policy has spread much further than tourist locations, with local town halls with old towers now charging for people to go the top, when before you could just take your kids up to see the sights if you popped into town at the weekend. I know a tourist or two not going is unlikely to change anything, but every little helps. And on principle I oppose the policy. There's lots you can do without paying an extortionate entry fee. I can't believe you have to pay to see Stonehenge and there is a dirt track that goes a 100 meter past it. For Japan from a permanent resident. Don't be Logan Paul. Don't treat Japan like super anime funland. There are only a few places where that'll even be remotely tolerated, and even those are just being polite. Your mastery of 20-year-old anime catchphrases is on par with being able to quote The Simpsons. It's just a thing. Wear a real kimono, not a silk bathrobe. Dress like a ninja. Try karate. There are thousands of places where you can do that for free or a nominal fee. Go for it. Most people, love seeing respectful tourists digging their culture. And, if you are here on a visa looking to score a waifu or hazabando, the rate of new, almost antibiotic-resistant syphilis infections in certain club areas is skyrocketing. And STD testing in Japan comes mostly from public health facilities who are required by law to report your STD status to any employer, which can get your visa revoked. Not my country, but I spent some time in Austria, and the one thing that would tick me off more than anything was when there would be a swarm of tourists in the city and they would take pictures in super inconvenient locations and at inconvenient times. Want to drive down this street? You can't. A group of women decided it was a good idea to take a picture of a building from the street, and if you keep going, you'll kill them. You want to use the crosswalk? Can't. A group of tourists blocks your path and they've too busy shouting at one another and taking selfies with their obnoxious selfie sticks to realize the light has changed. Get out of the car if you get pulled over. I know other countries it's normal to do this. European mostly, I think. You do this in the US, and you are liable to get shot. For Florida, no, your graffiti style hat is not cool. Please pick up after yourself on the beach. There are so many pictures of the beaches after spring break with bottles everywhere, nowhere to walk without cutting your feet on glass. It's why Panama City outlawed drinking on the beach during spring break times. Don't leave your drunk friend alone, especially if they're a girl. There are very real horror stories every year. Wait like a month after spring break. It's still hot and plenty to do. South Africa. Please stop getting out of your cars in the Kruger or Lion Park. They're wild animals, Susan. They don't live among humans for a reason. Don't wear Ugg boots or heeled boots in Maine. Every winter we have to rescue some idiot that tried to go for a hike in the snow wearing Uggs and an OMG super cute Victoria's Secret fleece sweater. Demi won't go out if it'll put them at risk. Also, pick up your trash. 1. Do not mess with the guards outside the royal residences. They might look all silly with their big fluffy hats, but they are trained soldiers. They will frick you up. By all means pose with them. Have a friend take a picture while you make a silly face and all that. But do not touch them. Do not try to get past them. And do not invade their personal space. Their job is literally to guard the royal family. 2. Don't try to deliberately replicate our accents. You're nowhere near as good at it as you think, and it makes us all die a little inside. 3. Don't think that just because you watched the Harry Potter movies, Sherlock and Doctor Who, you know the ins and outs of life in the UK, you'll just end up making a tit of yourself. 4. Do not under any circumstances call a Scottish person English. Do not under any circumstances call a Welsh person English. And for frick's sakes don't call an Irish person English. 5. Most of our cops are unarmed. Do not assume that makes them pushovers. 6. Do not disrespect queuing. We are a nation of the kind of people who will literally queue for no reason. If you barge into a queue, nothing will happen. However, you will be very unpopular. I'm Australian, but the accent thing applies here too. You can say G-Day in your own accent. That's fine. Don't go Crocodile Dundee with it. It'd be like me going to London and saying, chip chip cheerio, governor, like a Victorian chimney sweep. Don't go out in the desert or hiking without enough water. Don't mess with the wildlife. National parks are not theme parks. If your car breaks down in the Australian desert, do not leave it and try to walk to civilization for help. It's always tourists who do this, and they always end up dead or hospitalized because locals know to stay in with the car. Just stay in your car, even if it is several days. Eventually it will be noticed you have vanished and we'll send out helicopters looking for you. It is far more easy to spot a car than a single person, who has usually died of dehydration by that stage. People constantly underestimate how dangerous the heat and thirst are here. Specifically for wildlife areas. Don't touch the dang wildlife. This is in the US and people do it way more than they should. If you're visiting the US from a South American country, like Brazil, The restaurant wait staff are not servants and treating them like animals by snapping your fingers or making a loud tssssssstppt sound like you're a cat hissing at something will only get you the service end of my foot in your butt. Sounds like you have a story about this. I'm from Argentina and if someone would do that to a waiter he would probably get called out. I live in Toronto. Please stop taking forced perspective photos that make it look like you're taking the CN Tower in the butt. Do not walk on the bicycle paths, and if you rent a bicycle, stick to the right and don't just suddenly stop, turn, fall over. To be fair, falling over sometimes isn't really on purpose. Hawaii visitors, welcome to our state. Yes, we are a state, a real place with many of the same laws that exist on the mainland. One of my favorites is don't walk down the middle of the road. This is not Disneyland. The thing that looks like a road is a road, and I am the person in the SUV right behind you. It's not a big deal, although some people make it out to be, but saying you're Irish because you have a distant relative from here will always generate some eye rolls. Most of us see it as a culture thing more than a blood thing. There's a guy with Chinese parents I went to school with. His family moved over here when he was 3. He grew up with us and our ways and customs, and to us he's Irish. Sure, he's Chinese too, but walked like us and talked like us and really was one of us. Order an Irish car bomb. Have witnessed numerous American students get bait here for it and it's just really freaking disrespectful. A few more: don't sprint around the Giant's Causeway because you will fall, and I've seen people get rescued by the Coast Guard because they fell off. Don't say top of the morning to you. Dressing up as a leprechaun is overdone, and unless you're on a stag night or here for St. Paddy's you'll get some weird looks. Please don't say St. Paddy's ever. Whiskey sometimes doesn't have an E here in NI, so do not fight people over it. Don't do an Ed Sheeran and use Irish words incorrectly. Don't constantly speak in a fake Irish accent, be it Belfast, Derry, Cork or Dublin because it's obvious, it's tedious and you sound like a T. Last and definitely not least, please don't go on about how you're 1/128th Irish, and don't call yourself full Irish because as bad as it sounds, to us you're Irish American. Those are just some general rules for the whole island of Ireland. 2 9/11s coming up. For Chinese tourists, please don't let your child crap in public. It stinks, is disrespectful to everyone, and doesn't reflect well for Chinese people. Saw Chinese guy lift his kid up into a Disney World sink to crap in as dozens of Americans tried stopping him. Yes, you can get MJ out here. Number, you can't smoke it in public. Number, you can't take it out of the state. Yes, you have to be 15 feet away from the doors to smoke. No, it can't be MJ. Yes, this includes vaping. If you vape indoors they will tell you to GTFO. Seattle version. Also have to tell the hipsters and avrats that live here. Attention all tourists traveling through Banff Jasper National Park. This is a highway. Please refrain from stopping your vehicle in the middle of the road to observe the natural beauty. We have gone to great lengths to provide many fantastic viewing areas for your pleasure. Use them. Unexpected stops in the road are dangerous and result in accidents, for which you will be held accountable. Be safe, have fun. Also, please do not stop blocking half the road to get out of your car and take a picture of a bear. You are likely to get mauled, so make sure your car is all the way off the road so your death doesn't inconvenience other drivers. Be safe, have fun. Please don't play hockey in Canada. We're going to feel really bad about beating the maple syrup out of you, and no amount of apologizing will make us feel any better. Please don't walk on the bike path. Every summer I wonder if this is the year I'll lose it and start hitting tourists. Also, don't let your dang kids run everywhere, especially across a bike path suddenly. I know the old buildings are pretty, but I just want to get where I'm going without killing someone looking up instead of where they're going. Australian reporting in. Please don't go to the beach if you don't know how to swim or read the ocean. Please don't go bushwalking without a GPS unit and notifying the local police fire department. The Australian bush is not the woods in your Pacific Northwest backyard. Please do not start fires during the summer for any reason. Our plants have evolved to be extremely flammable. Also, our native animals are literally killing machines, especially the cute and cuddly ones. If there is no locals touching them, Please, for the love of God, don't assume they are okay to pet. In Canada, don't just pee your pants when you have to go to the bathroom. I'm sure you've heard this is customary here, but we have installed indoor plumbing in the last 3-4 years. To add, if you are not Canadian born, do not approach moose or polar bears. Canadians have a particular smell of Tim Hortons which calms the animals and gives us the ability to adopt them and use them as transportation along with Zambonis. For the love of God, stay off the black rocks. People die all the time by being swept off by a wave and then being beaten against the rocks by a beautiful yet merciless Atlantic Ocean. On a positive note, get some clam strips. They are yummy. Please don't joke about Mafia, particularly not by jokingly suggesting that whoever you are talking to is a mafioso. I get it, The Godfather was a great movie, but in reality they are nothing but murderous thugs. The Mafia is actually responsible for several acts of terrorism in Italy. You wouldn't like someone to randomly call you a murderer and a terrorist, would you? Also, and more importantly, do not request pineapple on pizza. On another note, it irritates me when clueless kids nowadays compare today's gangsters to the Mafia. Just because the Mafia wore suits doesn't mean they're any better than gangsters and cartels nowadays. Don't do crap on a sacred site that you wouldn't do anywhere back in your home country. Cambodia was full of these foreigners disrespecting the locals and Khmer culture. Hawaii here. Please don't freak in the surf. We gotta swim there. You got a nice hotel room you're paying $300 a day for. Make your pee film there. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.